Hi everyone. I believe there was a little bit of confusion today in terms of Module 2 and some of the different ideas, and I know that Lisa's told you all that if you need to resubmit, that shouldn't be a problem if you want to get a little bit of an extension on the submission. There are a couple of different ideas that got raised that I just want to chat about. The first is there was quite a bit of confusion around when something needs to be considered a desktop or a web client in terms of email. And for the purpose of this course, we're looking at webmail specifically. So it's like Proton Mail, Gmail, Yahoo Mail. We're not looking into the desktop. I've posted on the Module 2 discussion forums about why desktop applications are perhaps something that's not out of scope of this course, certainly something that we want to understand, and I've included links to the Mac OS X and the Windows Human Interface Guidelines. But if we consider that those pieces of software and those window management tools have been developed since the mid to late 80s, we're looking at human interface guidelines that are very, very established. And the pace of innovation in terms of desktop applications is very, very slow, very, very granular. So my advice to you would be that if you're going to change a desktop's general patterns of working, one needs to have a strong understanding of the human interface guidelines, because desktop applications are not things where one should make radical change in terms of the user experience. The reason for that is that there are many patterns that we perhaps as digital natives have become so familiar with that we might not even realize consciously that they're things that we expect. So for instance, in the Windows environment, that file will be at the top, and that if you go Alt F, it'll bring up the file context menu, and similar things in terms of how the ribbon functions in terms of desktop applications in Windows, the kind of experiences that one would expect from the Apple key, etc. On Mac OS X. So I would say that getting into the weeds of exactly how the human interface guidelines for desktops are involved is kind of a little bit out of scope. So please keep it focused on the webmail. I'm sorry that I was up in Pretoria and I was unable to stop what caught on like a little bit of a wildfire in the group forum around whether or not we should be looking at desktop clients. Desktop clients are increasingly deprecated. I think if you look at in the Windows environment, where you've got unified and universal Windows applications which now operate across the desktop, tablet, and then also onto Windows phone devices, and increasingly application experiences that go across different contexts, I think you're going to see pure desktop applications falling away in a large way. That, of course, raises this question of should we be looking at progressive web applications, and there were some good points that were made in the forum around the South African context in terms of low connectivity, etc., etc. All I would caution is that core to chainmail is security, and security increasingly when it comes to designing digital products is something that needs to be considered first, and that's one of the reasons why we've included it. Not because we want to get everyone sort of into the arcane nature of security, but rather to understand that it needs to form part of the user experience thinking. So there are a couple of interesting assertions that were made in the forum in terms of the fact that mobile first is just crucial and must be there, and I would encourage you all to question your assumptions around that. Are all applications mobile first? Why do we believe that? What do we believe is the basis for that assertion? And then flowing on from that, I think one of the questions we need to ask ourselves is: do we believe that we should have progressive applications? How does that impact security? Should we be pushing secure content out into client devices? As someone who's just recently gone through through penetration testing of an application, I can tell you that pushing critical and secure information out to the client, i.e. to a web or mobile device, and not storing on the server. I mean, now we're sort of really getting into more technical things, which I feel are kind of out of the scope of the user experience discussion. But it does form part of the product use context in terms of thinking about, does that make sense for us to be pushing secure information out into a large environment? So something to consider. I just want to apologize to everyone in the class that I was out of contact for a large period of time. or for a couple of days. I'm not really going to go into all the details of it. What I would encourage you to do is please bring up concerns around the module discussions early on. We made some changes to the discussion forums on the virtual learning environment with this run of the course, and I think I can see that there can be many more threads of discussion opened up, and I support that, and I think that's really, really great. I think the challenge that we have there is just that potentially there's a lot to be talked about, and if you have concerns, please raise them early. Finally, there was also a little bit of concern about the additional material in terms of the product use context, and that the product use context template, like where was it? Please look at the additional material in terms of the notes. There's a PDF that explains exactly how to fill out the product use context, and as is noted in the concluding paragraph of the notes, the assignment itself, that template is the thing that we'd be looking to fill in. One of the big challenges that we have with the course, and it's just the nature of any educational enterprise, is that we can't necessarily, because of the linear fashion of the course, and we want to take everyone on a journey, and we want everyone to get an increasing understanding of the various parts of the theoretical material that we're covering, we can't necessarily expose everyone to everything. And what we've noticed is that depending on the composition and makeup of the class, some of the classes that we've had very design heavy, some classes are very development heavy, some are very project management heavy, some are predominantly newcomers, and depending on what the composition of the class is, there can be a tendency to jump forward into areas that are our domains of understanding, our domains of concern. So in classes where there are a lot of designers, there's a big focus on wireframing and design. In classes with lots of developers, there's a lot of focus on sort of the structure of the user experience in terms of networking, and in terms of, is it a desktop app or is it a web app? And I just want to encourage you to look at and focus on each module in context of what it is in and of itself. I understand the exuberance and the excitement to try and address everything all at once, but one of the core things that we need as UX practitioners is to have a clear path that we want to follow, a clear way in which we want to uncover, discover, test our assumptions, and not simply jump in a way that pollutes the methodology. So I want to encourage you all to keep the passion up. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Thank you all very much, and I think let's keep the discussion going, and let's learn together in a sort of an open environment where we can test some of the things we assume, find research that supports it, find research that possibly contradicts it. I'm really enjoying the energy in this group of learners. Thank you all so very much, and I look forward to hearing from you all in the coming days. Thank you very much. Ciao.